As her bio illustrates, and I urge you to read her bio, she continues to engage in a lifetime of service, and we are privileged to hear her today. I am absolutely delighted to introduce you to Carrie Hessler-Radelet. Carrie.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm on a different mic system. All right. Thank you, Pat, for that warm introduction. And even more than that, thank you for your lifelong commitment to the Peace Corps and for being such a wonderful friend to me personally. It's just a privilege to be here. President Jones, Dr. Treadwell, Chancellor Noodleman, Board of Trustees, Board of Governors, faculty and staff, friends and family, and most importantly, members of the class of 2014, including the awesome Marilyn Castriati, who is actually a rock star. Congratulations, you've made it. You've balanced coursework, research, and internships while juggling jobs and families for many of you. You've absorbed lessons from your professors. You've learned from one another. You've probably learned a little too much about one another in some cases. You've come together over potlucks and coffee, planted seeds in a community garden, hiked Mount Monadnock, run up tabs at Elm City Brewery, explored this town from end to end, probably gotten into a little trouble together, and now today, here you are. Well done. This is my first time here, I have to say. But I have discovered that Antioch is truly a remarkable place, and not only because you're centrally isolated. AUNE is a place where social justice is part of your DNA, where compassion for one another and caring for the world we share is part of what it means to be an Antioch University graduate. A community that challenges its members, in the words of your founder, Horace Mann, to be ashamed to die until you've won some victory for humanity. Now, President James told me that if I used this quote, you would all groan. I didn't hear any groaning, though. Whether you spent your time at Antioch pursuing a degree in psychology, education, environmental studies, or management, you have been asked at every single step, not just to deepen your understanding of your chosen field, but to translate it into real good in the world. It's a challenge that we at Peace Corps embrace every single day. Like Antioch, our purpose is to spark positive change around the world. We both strive to nurture catalysts for good on the ground in the communities where we are, one person and one connection at a time. Like Antioch, Peace Corps draws men and women who are interested in not just imagining a better world, but in rolling up their sleeves and doing something about it. In so many ways, the missions of our two institutions intersect and overlap. It's why I'm not surprised to find such a strong and vibrant community of returned Peace Corps volunteers who just raised their hands a few moments ago. Students like James Gorham, who I met yesterday. James served as an environmental volunteer in Zambia, where he worked in rural villages and wildlife parks to promote improved conservation practices. You really should ask him about his upfront and personal encounter with a hippo. It's a pretty amazing story. James came to Antioch in search of a collaborative, interdisciplinary program, one that would build on his Peace Corps experience and launch his career in international management. Today, he's receiving his master's degree in resource management and conservation. And there are many other returned Peace Corps volunteers who came to AUNE because of your strong commitment to economic, social, and environmental justice. We're very proud of these volunteers who, in the words of President Jones, not only want to make a difference, but actually feel obligated to make a difference. And we're very excited about our new Master's International program in your Department of Environmental Studies, as well as our partnership through your Coverdell Peace Corps Fellows Program, which celebrates its first class of graduates today. Can I ask the Coverdell Fellows to stand so we can acknowledge you and celebrate you? Peace Corps in Antioch, we're a great match. You know what strikes me most about your school motto is the very last word, now. Because the world needs you now. Not after graduation, or when you've published your first book, or when you've made your first million. Not 10 years from now, not tomorrow, but now, today, this very moment. So let's take a look at this world that requires such urgent attention, the word that you, as graduates, will inherit. You will find as you begin your professional careers that it is very easy to be cynical about the world in which we live. Most people have a fairly jaded outlook when it comes to our shared future. And it's easy to see why. All you have to do is glance at the headlines. Girls kidnapped into slavery in Nigeria. Upheaval in Ukraine. The devastating ferry disaster in Korea. A rise in the deadly MERS virus in hospitals across the United States. Forest fires out of control in California. The threat of climate change hangs over us, as does the specter of global conflict. It's enough to make you want to stay in bed with your shades closed. The news all seems to be bad. It's tempting to be fearful or negative in light of what you see in the news. But I want to tell you why I think that the world that you're inheriting, the world that needs you so desperately now, is in far better shape than most people think it is. Why I believe that you are beginning your professional careers at one of the most promising, inspiring, important, and positive times in human history. Consider the following. In the past 20 years, since the end of the Cold War, the number of people living in extreme poverty around the world has dropped by 40%. Take a minute to think about it. There are nearly 700 million people, twice the population of the entire United States, there are 700 million fewer people, twice the population of the United States, living in extreme poverty than there were in 1993. The decline in global poverty is absolutely unprecedented. We have made more progress in reducing extreme poverty around the world in the past 20 years than in the previous 500 years combined. Yeah. The same good news continues across the board on nearly every indicator: health, education, women's leadership, democracy. The statistics are all going in the right direction. And despite the news, research shows the level of violence and armed conflict has dropped dramatically in the past few years. Now, not everything is perfect. That's absolutely true. Far from it. There's still many places where growth is stagnant and where people are downtrodden. And we must acknowledge that in the area of environmental sustainability, progress is particularly insufficient, uneven, and slow. And that's a place where AUNE grads can really make a difference, where you can lead us all in living within the donut, as we heard from Marilyn. Development takes time, and change is slow, particularly if it's participatory. And we can't forget that our own country has been at it for several centuries, and we still have a lot of work to do right here at home. But there has been amazing progress in the last decades, and the next 2 decades are likely to bring an even faster pace of positive change. I hope you're optimistic about the future, because I am. At Antioch, you have learned to step out beyond the boundaries of your hometown, your home state, and your home country. And in today's complex and interdependent world, we need leaders who are not afraid to leave their comfort zone, who are willing to take a risk to make a difference, who see the world as more than just a tourist destination, and who are committed to working with people from all walks of life to solve the world's most intransigent problems. We need leaders with vision, with innovation, and with a little bit of chutzpah. We need Antioch grads. Now, for those of you who are grappling not just with the philosophical questions provoked by commencement, but also the practical ones, the ones involving lists filled with things like JOB, health insurance, a roof over your head, let me offer, in my role as acting director of the Peace Corps, a few words that I hope will be encouraging. We're hiring. That's right. While some job markets might not have taken notice yet that you're graduating and available and looking, we at Peace Corps certainly have. And we are eager to help you take your talents anywhere from Albania to Zambia and dozens of countries in between. I promise you it won't be easy. I promise you that it will push you to the edge of your comfort zone. But I also promise you that it will be the most intense, meaningful experience of your entire life. Except perhaps childbirth. It was for me. As volunteers, my husband and I were signed as secondary school teachers in Western Samoa, a small village called Leulamoenga. Steve taught math and I taught English. The students were incredibly motivated, but the small village where we lived, the odds were stacked against them. Of the 300 girls in our school, every year only 5 or so students pass the national graduation exam. And of those 5, only 1 typically went on to university. We were constantly inspired by how hard our students worked in a second language with few resources, and they never gave up. They relentlessly pursued their dreams. Meanwhile, we despaired that so few were able to pursue higher education. We felt that we held their future in their hands, and no matter how hard we worked or how hard they worked, the outcome seemed absolutely invariable. About a year after we left Samoa, Steve and I received a letter from Palepa, one of our students. She wrote to tell us how our English and math classes had helped her to get a job at the bank, and now her wages were helping her younger sisters pay for their school fees. But more importantly, she said, you helped me see that girls can have a future of their own, that they have the right to choose the person they want to marry, that they have the right to choose the number of children they want to have, and the kind of career they want to pursue. You have helped me to believe I can start a business if I want to, or seek a leadership position in my village. Maybe even one day I'll be a Matai, which is a village chief. I wept when I read that letter. I felt redeemed somehow, that although Palepa had not gone on to university, she had learned so much more. Now, I've lost touch with Palepa, and I don't know if she started the business she dreamed of, or if indeed she is today a Matai. But what I do know is what I learned from her and from her fellow students. Patience, perseverance, a willingness to power through, and 300 reasons why you should never give up, no matter how tough the odds. And it is a lesson that I draw upon every single day in my leadership role at Peace Corps. We have so much to learn from others, especially those who are different from us, and so much of ourselves to share. So what I'd like to quickly do is share 3 lessons that relate to the Peace Corps experience and that I believe have broader application for Antioch grads and for our world. Lesson number 1, follow your passion. When people are passionate about a cause they believe in, they can do magnificent things. I'm continually struck by the collective ability of people who are dedicated and creative to solve unbelievable problems. I need only to look at an example that some of you may know very well. Dr. Alan Guskin, who's a dear friend of mine, is known in the Antioch community as head of your PhD program in leadership and change, and before that as president and chancellor of Antioch University. But we in the Peace Corps family knew him well before that, as one of a handful of student leaders who persuaded President Kennedy to create the Peace Corps. Al was there on the steps of the University of Michigan Student Union when then Senator Kennedy challenged America's youth to serve their nation by living and working in developing countries to serve the cause of peace. Now, Al was a peacemaker, committed to finding an alternative to military service. This is right in the beginning of the Vietnam War. So he sprung into action, organizing student forums, writing proposals, and starting a petition that gathered thousands and thousands of student signatures from across the country in a matter of days. He ignited a movement of young people that energized university campuses across the nation and inspired us all. The actions of this small group of student leaders caught President Kennedy's attention. Shortly after entering office as president, he signed the executive order establishing the Peace Corps. Al and his wife Judy went on to serve as Peace Corps volunteers in the first group class in Thailand. To me, what Al's story shows, more than anything else, is how much you can achieve when you passionately pour yourself into something that is greater than yourself, and how much your own life can be transformed in the process. Whether driven by faith, a loved one, personal circumstances, or just a desire to make a difference in this world, live your life with passion. Don't stand on the sidelines. Jump in with both feet. Go all in. It doesn't so matter what you do, but how you do it, and that you follow your heart. And don't feel like you have to start at the top. Get some experience at the ground level while you can. That's where you learn the most. In the words of Lisa Kudrow, it's always a good idea to follow your heart, as long as it doesn't lead you to jail. Life is too short not to love what you do and do what you love. Whatever it is, follow the advice of the Greek goddess Nike, the goddess of victory, and today I suppose the goddess of footwear. Just do it. Lesson number 2, go the distance and then stay a while. Going the distance is not just about covering geographical space. Sometimes the most important distance to close is the space between you and the person sitting right next to you. Technology has transformed the ways in which we connect with one another, the ways in which we connect with the world. And yet, even now, there are some things that you just can't understand via tweet and text. There are some things that you just can't see by swiping your smartphone or zooming in a little closer. Whether we're talking about family, politics, diplomacy, or business, the most important moments in life are defined by relationships, because the more you understand about the people around you, the more you begin to understand about yourself. And the more you understand that the things we have in common are so much greater than the things that divide us. And that matters, because we will not be able to create a world of peace unless we can find a way to open our hearts, to listen to each other, to understand one another's perspective, and to find common ground. Here at Antioch, you've done just that. You've learned about the challenges and the small miracles of teaching by stepping in front of the classroom yourself. You've learned about the complexities of sustainable development by helping city officials in Keene update their climate change action plans and talking to residents about what the action plans mean for them personally. You've come to understand the power of therapy by touching lives in clinics, hospitals, treatment centers, even prisons. So as you go out into the world, don't just stop long enough to check in on Foursquare. Roll up your sleeves, build a relationship, stay a while. Number 3, cultivate an attitude of service. Finally, no matter where you go, what you do, I hope you'll find a way to serve, as many of you already have. You don't have to go halfway around the world to make a difference any more than you have to be standing on Antioch's campus to feel a bond with this institution. Whatever path you choose, you can find a way to help others. When you begin your career with a service mindset, it never goes away. Because once you're part of something greater than yourself, you can't help but be transformed by the experience. I hope that you pursue a life of service because it will challenge you, teach you, and open your eyes in a way that are impossible to predict now. And it will inspire you to believe, even in the face of some of the world's most steep challenges, in the profound power of people's resilience, compassion, and hope. Service changes lives, first and foremost your own. People sometimes ask me, in talking about the impact of Peace Corps, why it is that I have so much faith in the difference that one individual can make. Sometimes I tell them, you might think that when you volunteer, it's just a drop in the bucket, no bigger than a single raindrop. But raindrops become rivers. Rivers swell into the seas, and the rise and the fall of the tides can literally change landscapes. because every single day I meet someone whose life was changed as a result of the Peace Corps. Part of pursuing social justice is discovering your power to make a difference. So I'm sharing one last story with you now about the power of one. A year and a half ago, I had the opportunity to meet President Alpha Conde of Guinea, who was invited by President Obama to meet in the White House as a celebration of democracy. Now, it's customary when a leader of a Peace Corps country comes to Washington, D.C., they reach out to the Peace Corps for a meeting. So I was invited to meet with President Conde in his hotel room at the Willard Hotel, which is right next to the White House. The meeting was a very formal affair, with 5 of us from Peace Corps and 5 of us from the Guinean side. We began with formal words of thanks. In his case, he thanked Peace Corps for the 40 years of Peace Corps service in his nation. And then I thanked him for the warm welcome that his citizens had given to our Peace Corps volunteers. We exchanged some small tokens of appreciation, and then I assumed that the meeting was over. But President Conde reached out, he touched me on the elbow, and he said, "Now that we have dispensed with the formalities, I want to speak to you from my heart." This is what he said. "I want to tell you about the impact Peace Corps has had, not only in my life, which is profound, but on the lives of my people. In my case, when I was a high school student, there was a Peace Corps volunteer who lived right next door to me. He was an agriculture volunteer. He worked with the farmers during the day, but in the evening he opened up his home to anyone from the village who was interested for homework help. I went there nearly every day. He is the first person that I can ever remember who believed that I had a future outside the boundaries of my village. His late night tutoring helped me to pass the national exams, which meant that I qualified for university scholarship. I was one of only 4 people that year from my entire nation that qualified for university that year. And I am certain, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I would not be president today if it were not for the love and support and encouragement of my Peace Corps volunteer. But even more important than the impact of your volunteer on my life is the impact of your volunteers on the lives of my people. During the last 6 months, I have traveled throughout my country. I've been to over 300 villages. I went to villages in the way eastern part of my country, which is very poor. My own campaign staff would not go there. And there are Peace Corps volunteers there. I went to villages way up north, which is very dry. There's 10 months a year has no rain. And to this day, I can't get a district governor. But there are Peace Corps volunteers there. I went to small villages in the central part of my country where the big international NGOs work. There's a paved road going there. They do good work there. They drop off bags of food aid. They build schools, hold trainings. But you know what? At the end of the day, they get back in their big white SUVs and they drive back to Conakry, the capital. But your Peace Corps volunteers, they stay. By your presence, you tell my people that America stands with us, that my people are so important to your country that you're willing to give us your most precious asset, your sons, your daughters, your mothers, your fathers, who lead everything that is important to them and familiar to them to travel thousands of miles from home to come and live among us, to learn our language, even though our language isn't even written down in some cases, to eat our food, even though it always makes their belly sick, to work on our priorities. My people are so proud to welcome you. Your being there validates my people more than the millions and millions of dollars that your country sends my country every single year. My people are proud to call you family. My people are proud to work with you on our joint priorities because you give us a hand up and not a hand out. And that makes all the difference. President Conde wanted to tell us how important the personal relationships, the personal connections between his people and our people are, because it is in the personal relationships where profound, transformative change occurs. I want to tell you, I hear this story in every single country I visit. Not always told by a president, although in Africa alone, there are 10 presidents who attribute a Peace Corps volunteer with setting them on this path to the presidency. But sometimes it's a teacher, a nurse, a taxi driver, a businessman. Sometimes 4 decades have passed since that person last saw their volunteer. You might wonder if one person can make a difference in this world. I'm here to tell you that they can. I often wonder if that volunteer had any idea that he was nurturing a president. I suspect he didn't. You never know where or how you're going to make an impact, what you will achieve, whose life you're going to touch, which is why you should never miss an opportunity to connect, to make a difference, to passionately pursue justice. And remember, if you think you're too small to make a difference, you've never been in bed with a mosquito. Class of 2014, you have an incredible future ahead of you and a whole world to explore. I can't wait to hear about your victories. Congratulations.